Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. So we completed the position of sujood, prostration, and the dhikr, the invocation that we mentioned in the sujood. There's a couple of hadith we'll read about the virtue of sujood and then we go on. A Sahabi was asked by another man. He said to him, tell me about a deed. If I do it, Allah would admit me into paradise. Or he asked, tell me about a deed that is most beloved to Allah. So the Sahabi thought a little bit. So the man repeated the question. So he paused again. Then the man repeated the question the third time. Then the Sahabi, his name is Thawban, and he basically was one of the people who served the Prophet ﷺ, Thawban Mawla Rasulullah. So he said to him, I actually asked the Prophet ﷺ about this same matter, and he told me, alayka bi kathrati sujood. He says, try to perform lots of sujood. And of course, sujood is part of salah, which means try to do more voluntary and optional rak'at and prayers. فإنك لا تسجد لله سجدة إلا رفعك الله بها درجة وحط عنك بها خطيئة. He says, you will not prostrate once for Allah Azza wa Jal, except that Allah will elevate you a rank and expiate a sin off of you. Then this man, his name is Ma'dan, he's the questioner. He said, I then asked Abu Darda, another Sahabi, about, he wanted to ask the same question to somebody else. فقال لي مثل ما قال ثوبان. He says, and his answer was basically the same as the answer of Thawban. So that's a confirmation from somebody else. We'll mention one more hadith here. عن ربيع بن كعب الأسلمي قال كنت أبيت مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأتيته بوضوئه وحاجته فقال لي سل. This man as well, he was a young man at the time, and he says, or a little boy, he says, I used to sometimes spend the night at the house of the Prophet ﷺ. And at the middle of the night, I would bring him his water to make wudu and whatever he needs. So Prophet ﷺ was pleased with him, and he said to him, what can I offer you? What can I do for you? Sal, ask me what you want. And this young man, his name is Rabi'a ibn Ka'b al-Aslami. He says, أسألك مرافقتك في الجنة. He says, I would like to be with you in Jannah. Just like he liked to be with him in dunya, he wanted to be with him in Jannah. قال أو غير ذلك. He says, are you sure? This is what you really want? The man said, or the young man said, هو ذاك. This is the only thing I really want. He says, قال فأعني على نفسك بكثرة السجود. He says, then help me over your own nafs with doing lots of sujood. To overcome your own nafs with lots of sujood. This shows that sujood in general and ibadah in general purifies the soul and makes the nafs and the soul closer to Allah Azza wa Jal, and then qualifies that person and that soul for the higher ranks in the Jannah. Now.
So is it better to, when someone is doing recitation in Nawafil, maybe let the recitation.
Yes.
Or you have lesser sujood that time. Maybe you use reading direct from the Quran. I used to do that.
Yes.
Sometimes I thought that probably I could have done 8 rakats, but I decided to do 4 rakats.
Which is better? Doing longer recitation or more rak'at?
No.
There is a hadith on this matter in which the Prophet ﷺ was asked what is the best prayer. He says tul qunut, which means the long recitation, the salah that has long recitation. But in general, these virtuous acts are very noble, whether standing, reciting long, or doing lots of rak'at and making lots of sujood or long sujood. Generally speaking, a person should look what he benefits from mostly internally, what he feels has the most impact on his heart, and especially in the things that are very comparable. You see what impacts you more and helps you more with your iman and belief in Allah, that you do more of. This is what Imam Ahmad was asked, and he's a great scholar, of course. He says, انظر أيها الأصلح لقلبك فافعله. When things are very comparable, now there's lots of virtue for lots of sujood, and there's lots of virtue for long qunut, it means long qiyam. وقوموا لله قانتين. He says, you do, he was asked a different question, but something that's comparable. I don't recall the exact question. He says, look at what helps you the most with your iman and rectifies your heart the most, and that's what you need to do more of. That's all. Now, so some people will find that, if I stand lots in qiyam and read lots of Quran, that helps my iman more. Somebody feels that if he does lots of dua in sujood, that's what works for him. Okay, everybody's different. Now, and then الرفع من السجود وهو ركن والطمأنينة فيه. Then you sit between the two sajda, and there has to be طمأنينة. Again, tranquility, lack of hastiness. You sit, take your time, pause for a few seconds at least. Actually, it is the sunnah to do it long. There's a hadith, وَكَانَ يُطِيلُهَا حَتَّى تَكُونَ قَرِيبًا مِنْ سَجْدَتِهِ. Prophet ﷺ used to make the pause, the sitting between the two sajda, between the two prostrations, as long as his sujood. He used to sit for a longer period of time, and his sujood was very long. وأحيانا, and sometimes he made it even longer. يَمْكُثُ حَتَّى يَقُولَ الْقَائِلْ قَدْ نَسِي. Sometimes he would make it so long that the people praying behind him would say, or somebody who's observing him at least, because he used to make the salah or the fard a little bit reasonably short for the people, but when somebody watched him pray alone, at least, he sometimes sat for so long that a person may think he forgot to do the second sajda, which means that he just sat there for such a long time. Is he going to do the second sajda, or this is it? Or did he forget that he hasn't done the second sajda? So this is how long it could be sometimes, okay? And then of course you say Allahu Akbar and you come up. If somebody decides to come up and raise his hand, that's not wrong. We mentioned that. But the more sunnah that you do is you raise your hand in the 4 places we talked about before. But sometimes if somebody raises his hand with every khafd wa raf', with every transition, that is still okay. And he used to basically yaftarishu qadamahu al-yusra, which means he used to sit on his left foot. I don't know, I would have loved to put this on the video, but basically, let's say this is the left foot, and you make it like this, so that the sole of the foot is facing upwards, and you actually sit on your left foot, while your right foot, you try to erect it upwards like that. So, I'm actually just gonna take this to show. This is how the right foot should be. It should be standing like this, while the left foot, okay, if I sit like that, the left foot, you can sit on it like that. You sit on the left foot and you erect the right foot. This is how it should be in the sitting between the two sajda. But there's another way of sitting between the two sajda, which is called al-iqa'. Like this. Like this is also a sunnah, to sit like this. Whatever is more comfortable for the person. Some people cannot sit like this for too long, so they prefer this other one, like this, and they raise this right foot. But if this and this is difficult for the person, it doesn't matter where your foot is. What matters is where your heart is. So if somebody finds, oh, my foot is going to be sore, and thinking about my sore foot, better for him to put the foot in a comfortable position and focus on the salah itself. Now, but these are the positions of the foot when you sit between the two. Between the two sajda. الإقعاء بين السجدتين. There's a hadith on this matter, and this is hadith Ibn Abbas. He was asked about this. He says, he has sunnah. He says this is part of the sunnah, and many of the Sahaba, and especially the famous and scholarly Sahaba such as Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Al-Abadilah, they call them the Abadilah. It's a plural of Abdullah. they used to practice that. Okay, before we finish, 1 hour 10 minutes, we'll try to finish with shorter than 15 minutes, inshallah. So that is sitting between the two sajda, and then you do the second sujood just like you did the other one. Then you come up for the following rak'ah. And you come up for the following rak'ah, there's something that you can do. It's called Jalsat al-Istiraha. You don't have to do it, but you can do it, which is after you come up from the sujood, you did the sujood like this, then instead of going up directly, you can sit like this, just like you sat between the two sajda. Then you get up and the hands are the last thing to leave like that, okay? Okay, so you can do that. Al-ihtimad al-yadayn. Prophet ﷺ used to push up with the two hands, and sometimes he would sit this brief sitting before he gets up. It's called Jalsat al-Istiraha. Some scholars say that he did this later in life because he was getting a bit older and heavier, and it would be more difficult for him to get up. But in the stronger opinion is that no, it's a sunnah. It's not like it doesn't really help that much. Actually, it might be even more difficult to do it this way, to sit down and then you get up again. Okay, so no, it is a sunnah. If somebody does it, that is fine. If you don't do it, that's fine as well. We talked about al-raf'a. You sit for the tashahhud in the same way you sat for the between the two rak'at. Al-julus tashahhud wa sifatu. The first way I showed you, which is you put your foot and you sit on your left foot and you erect your right foot. That is how you sit for the middle tashahhud, and which is different from the sitting for the last tashahhud. We'll talk about the last tashahhud later, but this is the sunnah for the middle tashahhud as well. This is the way of sitting. I don't think there is iqa' to erect both feet like I showed you. That's between the two sajda. It is not, I don't think it's mentioned for the middle tashahhud. The middle tashahhud is only the first way I showed you, which you sit on your left foot facing the sole of the foot facing upwards, and you erect your right foot. Now, and then the left hand is put on the left knee, the right hand on the right knee, and the fingers are all like a fist, like this, except this finger. The index finger points towards the qibla. Index finger points towards the qibla, and the tashahhud is said. It is mentioned that وَيَرْمِي بِبَصَرِي إِلَيْهَا, that during this time, this is only part in the salah where when you put your finger like this, you're actually, and you direct it towards the qibla, you look at your finger rather than looking at the place of sujood. The hadith says this very clearly, وَيَرْمِي بِبَصَرِهِ إِلَيْهَا. He used to erect his finger like this and look at it. Now some scholars said he used to move it. The hadith indicate that he held it for sure. Some hadith indicate that he moved it. يدعو بها, يشير بها ويدعو بها, يحركها, which means that he used to raise it like in a dua fashion, like this, as if, because the dua can be made like this, but the dua for imam is made like this, like you point towards the sky, like this. So he used to raise the finger pointing towards the sky. Now يدعو بها, which means that Ibn Uthaymeen, for instance, says you raise it when there's a dua in the tashahhud. Assalamu alayka ayyuha nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is dua. You're asking for protection and safety for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillah salihin. Another dua. Some people, sorry, you bring it down again. Okay. And but some scholars said you just leave it, and you just point towards the qibla and you look at it. Okay, so either you do this, you do that. Both are fine. And some people said you raise it in when you say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That's all fine, and none of that is wrong. Now sitting for the middle tashahhud, it is wajib. It is an obligatory part of salah. Nobody should ever miss on that. And reciting the tashahhud in it is also wajib. If somebody misses it unintentionally, then he has to do sujood as-sahu. Sah? We talked about this. And the first tashahhud ends, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. If somebody added as-salawat al-Ibrahimiyya, it's not wrong. It is not wrong. The hadith can be understood this way or that way. Okay, if you have time and the Imam has taken long time, you can say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad in the middle tashahhud. You can say that in the middle tashahhud. That is not wrong. In the salah, you don't be quiet. You keep doing dhikr all the time. Even if the Imam is taking a bit longer, you do all the time dhikr. As-salatu ala nabi tashahhud al-awwal. He mentioned here, and then we'll stop here. Then he's going to talk about getting up for the third and fourth rak'ah and what to do next. Okay, stop here. Yeah.